Okay, now those are the stages of procrastination. Now, let's get down a level deeper to the real root causes of why we procrastinate. There are two of them that are listed on your paper there, and they are slothfulness or laziness and fearfulness. Now, I want you to stop and think about almost anything that you tend to procrastinate on, and you can usually trace it back to one of these two things, either laziness or fearfulness. Not 100%, but I'd say a good 80-90% we can trace back to one of these two things. So let's look at these two in particular and just kind of see how they operate and see what we can do about them. Okay, let's start with slothful, lazy procrastination. What's the focus of a lazy person? Well, to this person everything appears overwhelming. Overwhelming. Ooh, that's too big. There's too much. There's too many. I can't do all that. And so I'll just wait. I'll wait until next Wednesday. Yeah, by next Wednesday I'll have time for that. You ever catch yourself thinking that way? And what we're saying here is because I cannot do it all, I'm just not going to do anything. Now, that really doesn't make a lot of sense if you stop and think it through. What are the rationalizations that go through the mind of a lazy person? Well, let me give you a couple of them here. This first one I've kind of alluded to already, and that is they will tend to take a very short-term focus. You see, the problem is the lazy procrastinator does not see the accumulating consequences of his or her actions. They only see the immediate results. Let me just give you a little, another little everyday illustration to illustrate this point. I used to have a house that had two different sources of water. It had a well and a pump that went down into the ground. Now, I could pump all the water I wanted out of that. That didn't cost me anything. But if there was ever a problem with that pump, there was also a valve in the front yard which I could open up, and I could get water from a neighbor's water supply for $1 a day. Well, one day I did have a problem with that pump. Wouldn't you know, it happened on a day I was really busy, had a lot to do, and I said to myself, you know, I'm not going to go out there and mess with that pump today just to try to save $1. I'm just going to use their water today. And so I went out there and I opened up that valve. But you know what? The second day came and that was a busy day too. And I said, you know, I'm not going to go out there. My time's worth more than $1. I'll just use their water again today. And the third and the fourth day that happened until finally about the fifth day, I forgot I was even using their water until one day, about 2 months had gone by and the thought struck me, wait a second. I never did fix that pump, and I owe them $60. And at that point, I went out there, fixed that pump. Simple little job, probably didn't take me 10 or 15 minutes, but my point is this, I wasted those $60 because every day I only saw today's consequences. I did not see those accumulating consequences. And that's typical of how a lazy procrastinator thinks. Jesus talked about this in the parable of the 10 virgins. Remember that one? Matthew chapter 25, he told us there about 10 ladies. He said 5 of these ladies were wise, 5 of these ladies were foolish. Now, if you read that through sometime, you'll discover that the bottom line difference between those two groups was the ones Jesus called wise were the long-term thinkers. They saw the accumulating consequences, whereas the ones Jesus called foolish were the short-term thinkers. They only focused on the immediate results. Now, there is a second form of rationalization that we sometimes take when we're lazy, and that is we will tend to create imaginary obstacles. Imaginary obstacles. You see, the lazy person is going to use what little bit of energy he or she does have to create an obstacle. That is, to create some reason why they cannot do the thing they're really supposed to be doing at that moment. There's actually a verse in Proverbs that speaks directly to this. Maybe you've read it before and not made the connection here. It's where it says, the slothful man says, there's a lion outside. I'll be slain in the streets if I go out there. Anybody ever remember reading that verse of Scripture? See your hand. Oh, okay, most of us have come across that. Now you're going to know exactly what that's talking about. That's a lazy person using his energies to create some obstacle. That is some reason why he cannot do the thing he's really supposed to be doing at that moment.